Welcome, everyone, to the Songwriters on Process podcast. My name is Benno Papari, and on this podcast, I take a deep dive into the writing process behind some of the world's best songwriters. By way of background, I am a former English professor. I have a PhD in English language and literature, and I'm a writer myself. So this is a conversation about writing between two writers. My goal has always been to treat songwriters the same way that we treat prose writers, just as writers, plain and simple. So that's all we focus on. I don't care about tour stories, favorite bands, how bands get their name, favorite foods, anything like that. This is, again, a deep dive into the songwriting process with some of the world's best songwriters. And with that, let's get into today's episode. And today on the podcast, it is Cody Jinks. I'm going to start this intro with a shameless plug. Here's my connection to Cody. Last year, I published Desolation, a heavy metal memoir by Mark Morton with Benno Papari. That is me. And Mark is a good friend. He is the guitarist in the metal band Lamb of God. And last year, we wrote his memoir. That came out last year on Hachette Books. As I said, that's my shameless plug, so buy that. But here's my connection to Cody. There's two connections. One, Cody and Mark are good friends, and Cody generously read our book before it was published and wrote a nice, flattering, what they call book blurb for the cover. And also, Cody and Mark collaborated on Mark's latest solo album. You can hear Cody there as well. But aside from that, Cody's latest album is In My Blood. It is out now. It is fantastic. I think we spent the last 10 minutes talking about books. I don't know that I've interviewed any songwriters who read as much as Cody does. He told me he reads 80 to 100 books a year. He is always reading. And I think when I asked him what he read, I think he talked for 5 minutes straight about all the books he's been reading nonstop. The man is a nonstop reader. And you know what? There is a very clear through line between reading and writing. I don't talk to songwriters who have been around for a long time. I don't think any songwriter who's been around for a long time has ever said to me, I don't read, it's a waste of my time. So he's a great example of the through line. If you read, you will write well. And we talked about that during the podcast a lot. My initial impression of this is that this is a guy who is constantly creating. If he's not creating, he is thinking about creating. He's got a family, he's got kids, he's super busy, he's got all that going on. He says he's a seasonal writer and he's productive in the fall. He doesn't write in the summer, but he's writing all of the time. He writes in journals, he writes poetry, he's writing a memoir, he writes songs. You get the idea. I got the sense that I was taking away from his creative space because he's always creating. So and he also paints. I forgot to say that. Anyway, I loved this interview. We had a great time. He's a fascinating guy. If you need book recommendations, they are there at the end. Again, Cody Jinks' latest album is In My Blood, and here is my interview with Cody Jinks. I always start with a very simple question, and that is, are you an everyday type of writer or a write when the mood strikes type of writer?
I go in spurts. It's very strange. I don't have a method. I don't write music first and then lyrics or vice versa. I have not written any lyrics in probably 2 or 3 months, but I have several ideas going for songs. And at this point in my career as a writer, I tend to let a lot of the BS sort itself out before I even put a pen to paper anymore.
So when do those spurts happen? You ever think about, are there things that you're doing when they happen? Is it maybe even a seasonal thing?
A lot of it's seasonal. A lot of it's where I'm at. Um, a lot of it has to do with where I'm at in a recording process. We're about to drop the new record, so we've been gearing up for that. Obviously, focusing on the tour right now. So I've had to learn really doing things the way we've done them, and with being an independent artist, I've really had to learn how to compartmentalize everything and put on my writer's hat and take my writer's hat off and put on my business hat and take my business hat off. Um, right now, the business hat is on, and like I said, I have several ideas. I was just talking with my wife yesterday about a song idea that I have that I think is super cool, and it's probably going to be what I sit down to tackle next. But that may be tomorrow or next month. I don't know.
So when you say where you're at, do you ever think so it sounds like where you're at kind of in that recording in the process. Um, but when we say seasonal, I mean, do you think there because I've heard songwriters tell me that literally the seasons of the year actually they're more productive. Does that matter at all?
Absolutely. I get very depressed. Usually around the end of summer. I don't write like I usually don't write a lot in the summer. It's because by the end of the summer, and that's why being on the road is good. I live in Texas. It gets hot, and the heat, the constant heat, like really brings me down. Like some people, it's like, oh, rainy days bring me down. This brings me down, or these kind of days bring me up. Um, but by the time it's been 110 degrees in Texas for 4 to 5 months, I'm just like, get me out of here. So my wife and I bought a place in Colorado years ago. We spend a lot of time in the mountains when we can, and we have teenagers, so that's difficult. They have activities, but I love to go up there and write. So the fall is really good for me for the juices to flow. Um, I love coming out of summer into fall. That I feel like that's more of my new year, like as a writer, as a creative being. Once the weather starts to change and everything starts to die off, and it's kind of a gothic way of looking at like how beautiful it's going to be. I'm a big Poe fan. You're an English guy, so man, we could go all. This excites me. We could go all day. I'm just. I need to see it go away to start to see it come back. And with my writing in the summertime, that's kind of how it is.
I've never heard that before, only because typically people tend to get more depressed during the winter. So is that, and I know, you're in Texas, so I say winter in, quotes. So does that matter at all? Like, is winter a productive time? It sounds like fall is your time, but does it ebb in the winter too?
Yeah, winter's very productive. I'd say fall and winter are probably my most productive months in writing. A lot of the business stuff slows down. Um, I'm very hands on with with our business, my career. We have 30 people within our organization that make this thing go. And by the time we have finished a tour cycle, and we're getting into the fall months and the create, and I'm able to focus more. My brain really is able just to say, "We've been thinking about all these things, Cody. It's time." And I use the winter for that too. I love being in Colorado in the wintertime, and I have a desk set up, and where our place is, there's snow much of the year, and I have my desk and I have my routine, and I get up, and that's when actually I do get a little bit on a schedule. I'll get up with the intent of writing every day. I always get up with the intent of reading a little bit. But up there, whenever uh, I'm in that space, I will get up and try to write there because I know that I have a finite amount of days there before we come back to uh, you know, home, Texas, where when I'm here, it's husband, father, first, uh, and that's where I'm at in life, and that's great. But creatively, fall and winter, preferably if I can be in Colorado. I write an awful lot up there.
Do you do other types of writing besides songwriting, journal writing, anything like that?
I write. I write. Yes, I write. I just write, man. I write. I have a regular journal going. I write poetry. Um, My poetry is actually pretty shitty, uh, which which is it would seem funny because, like, I mean, like songwriter, it's like you just read it like a poem, but like when I try to write a poem, it usually sucks. I don't know what's up, man, but that's funny. But I'm almost done with a book I started about 3 years ago, and It's not a memoir, but it is a memoir. It's a memoir of hard work, essentially. Lessons that I learned from my dad uh, about hard work, and lessons that I learned from different people in my life in different jobs, different industries entirely, but just life lessons I've taken from these people. So um, I'm really trying to focus and buckle down on getting that wrapped up while I'm out this next month. Um, I really need to wrap that up. It's not very long. It'll be probably 40 or 50,000 words when it's done. But that's long enough for my little first effort. We'll see if I can do this without fucking it up too bad.
Okay, so when you write those things that are not songs, are they does that are you ever writing something and you think, "Oh, actually, this is leading me to a song idea," or are those things compartmentalized? Like, if you're writing poetry that never makes into a song, never even some people, I think, do that those other types of writing deliberately as a break from songwriting. So, do those things ever overlap?
Yeah, I think there is truth to that, and I think that I've been there in my journey, I guess, but I think that all of it overlaps now. Um, and I think that's why I like, obviously I love art, and I love to paint. I'm atrocious. It's awful, man. It's like, oh man, everybody can paint a little bit. No, dude, not everybody can. I'm one of them that can't. I appreciate great carpentry. Just to me, writing is the purest form of art because it's you don't have to have anything. You have to have nothing but a piece of paper or a pen or a typewriter, whatever. Um, you know, you have to have something to create any other kind of art. And so it's let's paint a picture of a tree, right? Well, tell me a story about that tree first. Okay, well, let's write that story about that tree, then paint that tree. Like I love like that kind of concept, in a piece. I wish I could do it better, but all that to say, I think that it all coincides. Um, no matter what you're writing, if you're writing a simple little, you know, uh, like my wife makes little poems when the kids were younger to hide the Easter eggs or take them on a scavenger hunt and stuff like that. All these little rhymes, and it's like, well, you can write a song about all the little rhymes that you do with your kids, and it's like, and you hear people say it's such a cliche. Well, there's a song in that. There is a song in everything, man. Like there is. So like, just I don't know. It's just a very artistic way of looking at it, I guess.
No, I love that. So have there been eureka moments when you're painting? And because I've heard, I mean, I've certainly interviewed plenty of songwriters who paint as well.
Yeah.
Gosh, even carpentry. I had Dennison Whitmer, the songwriter, on a couple months ago. He's a by trade, he's a carpenter,
Yeah.
and we talked about that. But I mean, I think for some people they use that as a break. Others, wow, all of a sudden, there's a eureka moment while they're painting. So
I have the same eureka moment every time I paint, like, especially after I put it down for maybe a year or 2 and then try again, and I have this really great thing I'm gonna do in my mind, and it's the same eureka moment every time. It's, "Holy shit, I suck at this." It's the same one. It's Groundhog's Day. No, it's a any kinda art, any kind of way you can get it out, can express whatever. The pieces that I enjoy the most are the ones that people look at and go, "How the hell did you do that?" And where I go, "I could tell you, but I couldn't do it again." You know, and that's kind of how songwriting goes because I can tell you how I do it, but I don't know how I do it.
probably have thousands of voice memos. Is there any organization to those voice memos at all?
No, I just try to cull them. Actually, I tried. I went through them about a month ago, and I got rid of so many of the ones that I just showed an example of. Got rid of a lot of those. Erased voice memos from that I had from like 3 or 4 records ago. Like I cleared so many notes that I had from the last 3 or 4 records, just ideas that I, different, different things, different, guitar riffs, different. Yeah, there's a lot on there, man. So yeah, just trying to cull it down to where you look at it and it's not overwhelming, and there's actually it's not organized other than date. But at least being able to, because then they're all named stupid things too, like awesome guitar riff, 10, 20, 28 or whatever, super cool, rad, Metallica type riff. Um, really awesome George Strait type song. You read all this, you're like, oh, well, that must be good. And you're just like, nope, that's a Metallica ripoff. Nope, erase that. Nope, sounds just like George Strait and then erase that. you know?
That's hilarious. One thing I did forget to ask you, I've got a David Byrne quote. David Byrne said, "A car is a good place to write lyrics. Driving occupies one part of the brain, freeing up the other." So, do you ever get ideas when you're in motion? That kind of whether it's you driving or whether you're on a bus or a train or a plane or anything like that.
If it's me driving, yeah. Not so much if I'm riding. Maybe if I'm riding shotgun and I'm in the front seat and I can see stuff, but when you're on a tour bus, man, you don't see anything. You roll at night the majority of the time, so you're normally in your bunk. And normally when you get up in the morning and open your windows, you open your windows and see A, concrete walls, or B, tour buses. So you don't see shit when you're in those things, man. Driving, I would completely agree with that. Um, Completely agree with that. I've written a lot of song, or at least maybe come up with hooks, loud and heavy. The loud thunder, heavy rain. My son was in the back seat when he was 2 years old, and that spurred that. We were driving. Um, I definitely have written a lot of or started a lot of songs driving, but you got to think too. Before I was on a tour bus, man, I was driving everywhere. I drove myself across the country several times, up, down, left, right. You know, um, I was on the road since my mid 20s, um, driving myself around. And so that's a lot of times where I was right.
When those songs that come all at once, it's like lightning in the bottle. Are you less likely to touch those because you feel like there's a reason why this happened? I'm not going to mess with it.
Yes and no. Those are the ones that usually need less tweaking. So it's they all you need to go over all of them. But a lot of times, a lot of times, just leave that motherfucker alone until you get into the studio, and if it comes down to hey buddy, that's a double negative. You might not want to use that. You know, you know, yeah, leave that motherfucker alone. But if sometimes you really have to craft one and really, really work on each word. And the beautiful thing is that oftentimes some of the easiest ones to write that just came out sound like some of the best crafted, and vice versa. And the crowd doesn't know which ones you took 10 minutes to write or 10 years to write.
So those songs that take a long time, whether I've had some people tell me there are songs on new albums now that they started 20 years ago. Do you have some of those too?
On this brand new record, I have 2 songs that are over 20 years old that fit right in seamlessly with songs that are only 5 or 6 months old. Yeah.
So did you set it aside? Like, how did that work exactly? Is it, oh, that was an idea that started 20 years ago and you revisited it?
Yeah. In art, life imitating art and art imitating life. There was 2 songs in specific, Lost Highway and See the Man, that both it was like, it's time to put this on a record. Um, and it was as simple as that. They're all little individual artworks in their own, and they come together and make one big piece. That's an album. That's the concept of an album. And it Lost Highway was really funny in that um I recorded it 20 something years ago, and to listen to it recorded now versus then, you can hear the years in my voice. You can hear what it did to me. And it's kind of eerie because I didn't know what I was singing about 20 years ago. And now that I've had 20 years of it, and uh, it's so that one has had a new life given to it. And I love the way I can't sing it like I used to. My voice won't do the things that it used to do. And I love that because you can hear it and it's real. See the Man, I wrote 20 something years ago when I was bartending. And, you know, I've been on every side of it. Since I've been 17 years old, I've spent a lot of it in bars. I've been on the drinking side of it, the bartending side of it, and on the stage side of it since, for the past 30 years, man.
All right, so very specific. When it comes to lyrics, are you a pen and paper person or a computer slash phone person?
Pen and paper all the way, bro. I'm so analog. This phone that I'm talking to you on right now is the only piece of equipment that I don't have a laptop. You know, I've got my phone, and I carry 3 to 4 different moleskins with me. I have my regular journal, which is a big moleskin, and then I have my lyric book, which is another big moleskin, and then I have an idea book, which is a smaller moleskin, and then I have the I actually wrote the book that my book is in a moleskin. So I carry a lot of moleskins around.
Now, I'm going to get very specific about this because some songwriters are very particular about type of pen and color of ink. Does that matter to you?
Um, okay, yeah, it does. I'm not too picky. Um, I'm not a pen snob. I do have a Mont Blanc, but I don't carry it on the road. I really like 1.0. I like a big, thick, non-streak. The uniballs are good. The 1.0 uniballs are good. They don't streak. The Sharpie 1.0 pens, those are good about not streaking. So just a good fat piece of ink that doesn't streak. I don't want to have to strain to see it.
And does color matter?
Um, yeah, I'm a black guy. I use black and I use red when I edit. So that's very old school English teacher.
So why not pencil? You don't even use pencils, just pen.
Yeah, no, I don't use pencil at all. And I don't have anything against pencils. I like a good Ticonderoga. I mean, it's, I just, man, I'm more of a scribble that fucker out and ink down some more down here, man.
That's
Yeah.
what I was going to ask you. So when you're scribbling, when you write something that you want to cross out, do you just is it a single line or is it a furious scribble?
It is a furious fucking, like, I make a coffin around the word, and I black it all out. And yeah, my mom, was always I grew up in the 80s, so it's like put the single line through it. Like my mother's handwriting is very neat. My handwriting's pretty good. My mom taught me to write well. But like mom was like just one single line through. And I'm like, no, I totally didn't mean to say that word. Now they're going to think that I thought that. And then I wasn't thinking that. And I'm like, ah. And then I put a hole through the paper and I tear it out. And I start over.
Now, I want to get to the ritual before we talk about reading. Are you a morning person or an evening person? Does time of day matter?
Since I've become sober, I am a morning person, which is very, very strange to me still. Uh, uh, I quit drinking 22 months ago, and I went from being a night owl to being a morning person almost instantly. And I enjoy the mornings now, and in Texas, it's a lot better to get out in the morning and get stuff done because even the evenings don't cool off in the no, we're having a mild summer right now, but and it's actually feels great out here. But yeah, you got to get your shit done early in Texas, so that's been helpful. But yeah, I have my routine. Uh, I never had really much of a routine before, but I do now, and you know, a lot of that has to do with just getting up and focusing on the day, spending about an hour by myself, trying to about 30 minutes of exercise right after I wake up, 30 minutes of reading, writing, meditating, praying. Um, and that kind of sets me up for the rest of my day as opposed to I used to get up, have 3 or 4 cups of coffee, and it was Miller time about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Can you write for long stretches, or I'm not a lo I need a break about every hour. Can you write for long stretches, or do you need a break?
I'm not a long stretch guy. Like I I purge when I write. Like it's like I said, I'm kind of at the point now to where I sort a lot of the BS out, and I kind of I've I've explained I've tried to explain. It sounds weird, um, but I'll get a word or a line or a phrase, and that will just spin around in my head, and it will collect more words and lines and phrases, and it will start putting itself together. And I typically don't sit down to write until um, I have enough of a word tornado to get it down. Like you start getting it down.
One follow-up to that, is there a place, favorite room, favorite chair, does that matter?
Um, when I'm at home, I do write a little bit at home, not a great deal, but usually in my office. Uh, and yeah, usually not at my desk chair. There's a guitar chair there's 2 chairs with a guitar set up, with a little writing table in my office. When people come over, we write in there. So usually there in the corner of my office. Um, but like I said, my favorite place to write is mine and my wife's home in Colorado. Um, it's just I can just sit down and, like I said, that's really the place where I feel like I can be a disciplined writer. I'm not a disciplined writer at home, and I don't necessarily feel the need to be a disciplined writer. I have the want to be a disciplined writer when I'm in Colorado to take care of to make the most of it, you know?
But I love that because it's that place that you just, whether it's superstition or anything, you feel like that's where the mojo is, right? That's the place where you tend to be most productive,
Yeah.
and you don't have to know why. And I'm the same way too. There are certain places, certain chairs. I don't know why, but it doesn't matter. But that gives me confidence to know that things are going to happen there.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. Like I said, my favorite, my desk looking out my favorite window, at the snow-capped mountains, and a lot of it has to do with too, my wife and kids when we go up there. We have a 16 and a 13-year-old. Baseball, ballet, band, all the things, man, and they are super rad kids, and they are involved, and it is blowing and going. When we're all up there, everybody's chilled out. It's difficult for me to be able to sit down in the middle of the day to write a song, to get there and kind of stay there mentally while regular life's happening. And I missed regular life while I was on the road for almost 15 years. So while I'm here, I do want to soak that up, but it also gives me the desire to want to get my family out of that, if no more than a week, and it's harder now that the kids are older, to get them to go on trips and things of that nature. But to be able to go out and remove everybody's, because if my wife is just sitting there reading a book, it's easier for me to sit there and write. If my daughter is sitting there listening to her headphones, just and not blowing and going around, the same thing with my son. Um, it's easier for me sit down. And that's what a selfish thing for a writer to say. It's easier for me to write when everyone around me is being still. I don't know. That's what a what a weird thing.
Well, to me, I will create false deadlines for myself to force myself to write. So, for example, if my wife and I are going out at 6, I won't start writing until 5 because I know that I have 1 hour and I have to stop. And I've learned that about myself. We live in DC. I go to New York all the time for work, and that 2.5 hour train ride, I'll get more done than if I sat here for 2.5 hours because I have to put my laptop away when we pull into Penn Station. Um, but I use that I use that as a way to be productive as an imposed deadline, and I think that works for me the best. I hear a little bit of that's what you're saying. You feel like
I
you've
do
got
a
that.
lot of that.
Yeah, and I think that's why when our kids were younger, when your kids, when that kid goes down for a nap, you got 1 hour.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, we know that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's like you said, I'll be on an airplane today for 3.5 hours, and I will probably get a lot done
yep,
because we know I'm at home right now. I'm sitting on a porch, but when it's I've done a very good job. I feel like I've done a very good job. You could ask my wife and kids; they might tell you different. Of not working too much when I'm at home. So 3 hours on a plane, man, I can get a bunch of stuff done. Like your 2.5 hours on a train, I can get to where I'm going and have ready what I need to have ready for who I need to have ready for. If they need answers about something, or we need to have this decision made or this decision made, uh, yeah, there's no time not to do something. Just like you said with a kid, you either need to sleep when they're sleeping, or if they have that hour that man, I can get this done and start that load of laundry, and so and so's coming over. I scrub the toilets and whatever. Um, there are no wasted minutes in the day, and I think that's why you have the deadlines for yourself thing too. But that's also why whenever my family's being still not here, around me, we can all just kind of chill out. Then I feel like I can afford to let myself relax because they're not all running around.
yep.
It's like a therapy session, man.
That's what every songwriter tells me. They're like, "Wow, it's like a therapy session." Um, all right, let's end with this then. We're gonna end talking about books since you're a big reader.
Yeah.
Um, whether they've had influences on you as a songwriter, it doesn't really matter, but I'd love to know, who are your favorite authors? Are you a genre person? Let's have at it.
Okay, gosh, I could talk about books forever. I usually have two going. I usually have an Audible going for when I'm driving or doing whatever, and I usually have a paperback going. I just let's start with what I just finished. I love to go back and read classics that I haven't got to. I just finished East of Eden, and Steinbeck's heavy, and I didn't see it going where it was going, and I actually had to put that book down because it's a heavy, heavy sucker. I loved it. I love Steinbeck. That's what I just finished. I just started the new Stephen King book. Um, Don't Flinch. It just came out and it is effed up. Um, my wife and I are reading that right now together. I am typically um a dystopian guy. If you can name it, I've probably read it. I the new album has Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is a site for Ray Bradbury. I'm a big um Orwell fan. Um Goodness. I love memoirs. I used to not read a lot of fiction. I read more fiction now than I used to. I found some authors that my wife really loves. She got me into Kristen Hanna, which is a really far departure from some stuff I normally read, but I love Kristen Hanna. And that's probably one of the more like mainstream. Um, you know, I'm a big dude. I loved everything Hunter S. Thompson did. I love the beat writers going back to Ginsberg. I mean, let's talk Tom Wolfe. Electric Acid Kool-Aid. I ate that shit up in my teens and 20s, and I was a huge Bukowski guy. I'm still a big fan, but I can't read it anymore. It puts me into a very. I used to get drunk and read Bukowski, which was awful because I would become like a 25-year-old Bukowski. That totally sucked. And, um, golly, man, shit like that. Uh, I love a western, man. I have almost everything Louis L'Amour's ever done. Um, I have so many books on deck right now. It's stupid. Old books, new books. I haven't read James yet. James just came out at the end of last year, and I'm behind. That one's been sitting, and I keep putting it off because everybody keeps telling me it's sad. Right, and I keep reading these heavy books right now, so I'm not looking for a sad, but I'm reading this effed up. I read East of Eden, which totally was a freaking god. That was heavy, and then started on this King book. I just reread The Stand by King as well, which I need to. Yeah, I've been reading a lot of King lately. I need to read some more fun stuff, light stuff.
So do you when you read, I'm a 2 book at a time person too, but it's gotta
Yeah.
be fiction, nonfiction. They can't be the same. So is that the same way you are?
I probably do better whenever I'm doing that, but I can't tell you that I make a conscientious move in that direction to make sure that happens. No. But now I might think about that subconsciously.
I like it because I feel like when I'm not reading one, it's that one's something's going on in my brain where I'm processing it unconsciously when I'm not reading it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll just read one and then read the other and kind of go back and forth.
Now I have done this. I have heard it's better to read nonfiction before bed, but I read fiction and nonfiction before bed, and it never seems to bother me. Now, the nonfiction I read, like last night, I was reading the graphic. I love like comics, like Jonah Hex, the graphic novels, stuff like that, gunfighter stories and shit like that. Um, Shootouts in comic book form. I read that because it's mindless. It's a shoot 'em up, doesn't mean anything, but the book that I have next to that for bedtime that I don't read these books other than bedtime, other than Jonah Hex, the Western gunfighter comic, or is my book about the world's religions. Because for some reason that helps me sleep too. Because like I'll be like, oh, I did not know this about whatever, and I can go to sleep. Yeah.
Um, so are you the type of person that I started doing this recently. I was always the type of person that I had to finish a book no matter how much I didn't like it. But
Yes.
once I started to say, fuck it, I'm not going to finish this. It was incredibly liberating. So are you able to put down a book and say, I'm not going to finish this, or do you have to finish it?
Just recently did I get that way, probably within the last couple years. And my wife actually reads more. I probably read, in all honesty, man, probably 80 to 100 books a year. And my wife reads considerably more than I do. And we both consider it a personal defeat not to be able to get through a book. We read, oftentimes we read many different things. Different things freak each other. Like a lot of stuff she reads freaks me out. A lot of stuff I read freaks her out, and we don't understand why that works, but it's how it works. And and we read a lot of the same things. Like I said, her getting me into Kristen Hanna. Had our have our own little book club, and we'll talk about books that we're reading, things of that nature. But um, we both are we're like, had to put one down today. It's like it's like, oh man, tell me about it, man. I just kept slugging my way through it. And I thought, God, it's got to be me. It's got to be me. It's got to be me. And no, just the book sucked.
And I love what you said because there's nothing it reminds me when I was a kid, my friends and I would get together on Sundays, we watch football, and the second the game is over, what's the first thing we did? We'd go outside in the backyard and play.
Sure.
And writing's the same way. I find nothing motivates me more to write than reading. So when you start off your day reading, first thing I thought of was that's an incredibly motivating way to kind of because you want to write after you've read good writing.
Yeah, and even if I don't write that day, I still think it's important to get up and read, and I still think it's important to read before my friend Tennessee Jet, I've written many songs with him, and he's actually the guy that funny, 10 years ago, he gave me East of Eden to read because it influenced a lot of the things that he wrote. But he told me a long time ago, I was asking him, I was doing a podcast, and I brought up writer's block and like not being able to write. He goes, there's no such thing as writer's block. I was like, how? He said, well, look at it this way. You've got input, you've got output. He goes, if you can't write, it's because you need to change your input. You have to change what you're writing. Um, I'm sorry, what you're reading, not what you're writing, in order to write differently. So it's input and output. Change your input, and if you find you're not having output, you are still having output. I started a song one time with I can't think of one damn thing to say, and it ended up I wrote a song called Heavy Load, ended up making the record. So if ever since he said that, I would have never thought that somebody saying something like that would change my mind and thinking, yeah, you know what? There is no such thing as writer's block. You might not be able to write what you want to write at the time, but you can write something and it may lead to something else. That's why think tanks are great because I may have this idea and you may have this idea. And then, you know, Cassandra over here goes, bing, puts them both together and says, hey guys, what do y'all think about this? We look at Cassandra and you go, oh, fucking A.
I had the writer Anthony Doerr on about 10 years ago. Anthony Doerr wrote the book All the Light We Cannot See, won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. And I'll never forget, I said, what do you think about writer's block? He goes, I don't believe in writer's block. He goes, writer's block is a failure of courage. And right? Yeah, that has always stuck with me. His thing is, "You're not so special that you can't write something." He goes, "Don't think that you have to write the precious stuff. Just start writing. Like, everyone has something to say, and don't be afraid to write the bad stuff." And I love that he called it a failure of courage.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's because I've had to write so much dribble and bad to get to the good, and it is a courageous thing. But also, I know when I have something to write. I guess because it's the age I'm at now. So I typically am not going to sit down and write too much of the dribble. So I think it's more focused. It's like, am I going to sit down right now and write a great song? Probably not. I'm not in that headspace. I'm not going to focus on it.
And that's it for the latest episode of Songwriters on Process. You can find all of the old episodes on all major streaming platforms and probably some minor ones as well. You can also find them on the Songwriters on Process website. I started the site back in 2011, so that means there are hundreds upon hundreds of interviews with some of the world's best songwriters. So take a deep dive into some of those episodes. They are all great. Of course, I'm biased. Also, shameless plug. My book, Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir by Mark Morton with Benno Papari, that is me, is out now on Hachette Books and in all major bookstores. Mark is a good friend of mine. He is the guitarist in the metal band Lamb of God. And so we collaborated on his memoir. I'm biased, but that's a damn good book. Again, it is called Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir. And lastly, if you want to get in touch, go to the Songwriters on Process website. You can fill out a handy contact form and it'll get to me that way. You can also email me at ben@songwritersonprocess.com. I'm all ears. Send me your comments, your suggestions, your complaints, people you want me to interview. I get great suggestions all the time. I can't respond to all of the emails because I get a lot of them, but I do read all of them. And let me know your thoughts. If you have ideas for people you want me to interview, there's your chance. And with that, I am out. See you next time.